That is not the right kind of spatula. That's like for flipping pancakes. Hey everyone, I'm Claire. Welcome to my home kitchen. Today we're mixing it up a little bit and I am going to teach one of my favorite dessert people, my brother-in-law Nick, how to make a croquembouche. Maybe the hardest recipe in all of Dessert Person, but it is Nick's favorite. He is quite the novice when it comes to baking.
Oh, I just did the opposite.
Everything's leaning in on itself, collapsing.
I love teaching people and empowering them to bake at home, and hopefully, I know I'm gonna have a croquembouche at the end. We'll see what Nick ends up with. The rating is difficulty level 5, very challenging. It's often served traditionally as a wedding cake in France. It is a French confection, and the name means crunchy in the mouth. It is basically a literal tower of cream puffs that are stuck together with a hard, crunchy caramel. I could make a croquembouche start to finish in probably 4 hours. That is if I'm like focused, and also I am a professional and I've had lots of practice. We've blocked out the whole day. And also I asked Nick to make one component in advance. So both Nick and I have made the pastry cream because that would slow us down a lot today. I mean, I'm gonna be here as Nick's guide and sort of baking fairy godmother through the whole process. That said, I hope I don't get frustrated or impatient at any point. But I think the caramel can be tricky. I'm also here to like manage the whole situation. So I got Nick on Zoom. Oh wait, you're muted.
Ta-da!
Hi. Are you nervous about any part of this?
The only thing I'm slightly concerned with is I understand caramel can be tricky with temperatures and you can burn yourself. I feel really good about the assembly aspect. So I'm feeling good, riding the wave today.
What would you say is your level of baking experience?
Oh, slim to none.
You know that the Saffitz family members have sometimes low patience.
Yes.
So for special equipment, you will need a couple of pastry bags, also a star tip. For making the pâte à choux, you could use a stand mixer. We're gonna do it by hand. It's not that hard to do by hand. And then a 1-inch round cutter. If you don't have a round cutter, you could use a pastry tip that has about a 1-inch diameter, or you can even use a bottle cap. Anything that is about 1-inch diameter circle, you could use to punch out something called Craquelin. In terms of other equipment, you'll just need a couple of sheet trays, some parchment paper, as well as a rolling pin. So in terms of ingredients, I already have the chocolate pastry cream made that uses milk, cornstarch, eggs, sugar, chocolate, very straightforward. And then for the assembly, you'll need brown sugar, all-purpose flour, a little bit of sugar, butter, milk, eggs, kosher salt, and a lot of sugar for making the caramel. So we're gonna start with Craquelin, or like Craquelin, however you want to say it. This is like a very basic, almost cookie-like dough that we're gonna use, and we're gonna cut out little circles, and the circles are gonna sit on top of the little mounds of cream puff dough. Grab a bowl and a spatula. Okay, excellent. And then 1 stick of butter. Do you have it at room temp? I hope you do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
The whole stick, right?
The whole stick. Add your brown sugar. Nick, you have 3/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar.
And I did it by weight, so it should be golden.
Oh my God, you did it by weight. Did Jane help you?
Yeah, Jane is like, pull out that scale, son.
So Jane wasn't much of a baker. She got her hands on Dessert Person and has made a bunch of the recipes from the book, and they've turned out so great. And now Jane is like a pro baker.
Straight up.
So we're gonna do the same thing with you. So add the sugar and start to work it with a spatula until you have something really smooth and creamy looking. Show me that spatula. That is not the right kind of spatula. Let me see. Do you have like a different kind of spatula that's like more for like scraping? That's like a spatula for flipping pancakes.
Like this?
Yes, yes, use that spatula. What you want, Nick, is like a very homogeneous mixture where you don't see individual bits of butter. If you need to, you can zap it in the microwave for like 8 seconds. I'm already impatient, put it in the microwave. I'm adding a pinch of salt to mine. When yours comes out of the microwave, add a pinch of salt.
How much is a pinch? Is it a gram?
It depends on the kind of salt that you're using. But when I do a pinch, Nick, I do 3 fingers. I do these 2 fingers and a thumb.
Okay, 3 fingers.
Perfect.
Killing it.
Okay, so now back with the spatula.
Oh, wow, that's way easier.
Hey, that looks pretty good.
It's like definitely getting to that singular consistency that you were talking about.
So go ahead and add your flour. Now, do you have 1 cup of flour measured out? Dump that in. Same thing with the spatula. Work it in. And it's gonna seem kind of dry, which is normal. How's yours looking?
It's a little crumbly. Is that cool?
You want the flour to sort of disappear. You know, like it won't look white and powdery anymore. I want to try to use like snowboarding metaphors, but I've never been snowboarding, so I don't know any of them. Kneading means that you are folding it and pressing it down on top of itself. You don't have to hold your bowl. I was just holding it to show you. You can do it on the...
I'm just holding it to show you.
So you're basically trying to bring it together into one big piece that's evenly mixed. It should look like cookie dough. That looks really good. Okay, so now what you want to do, Nick, is take it out of the bowl, grab your rolling pin and parchment paper. So Nick, put 1 piece of parchment paper down, put half the dough on top, and then I'm going to use the second sheet of parchment to go right on top of the first piece of dough. And now we're going to roll on top of the parchment paper with the rolling pin. So one thing you want to do is switch the directions of the rolling pin. So if you're rolling in one direction, rotate the parchment paper 90 degrees and then start rolling the other direction.
Okay, so I'm just pushing straight the whole time.
Yes, exactly. We want to roll this out, Nick, into about 1/8 of an inch thick piece.
This looks like the Millennium Falcon.
That is Star Trek?
Oh my God, seriously?
Wars?
Millennium Falcon is definitely Star Wars.
I made Nick and Jane's wedding cake, and they got married on May 4th. And I would say Jane is not a Star Wars fan. I was like, I'm not having a Star Wars themed wedding. So Nick, but she did stipulate to a Star Wars themed wedding cake. So into the fridge, maybe cover it, Nick, with that other piece of parchment, just so it doesn't dry out too much. We want to chill this for 10 to 15. We're moving on to kind of the core of the recipe, which is making pâte à choux. Pâte à choux is the French name for cream puff dough. And it's a little bit atypical because it's cooked on the stove first before it's baked. And the ingredients are very straightforward. We have milk, flour, whole eggs, kosher salt, butter, and a little bit of sugar. And that's really it. So Nick, into your saucepan, you're gonna put your 1/2 cup of whole milk.
Gotcha.
And your 1/2 cup of water. So we do 50-50 water and milk. So then a 1/2 teaspoon kosher salt,
Got it.
your 1 tablespoon of sugar, and then your butter, the 7 tablespoons butter,
All of the 7 little chunks.
all of it right in there. This can go on the stovetop now, on like medium.
Medium burner, medium heat. Copy that.
And now, do you have a wooden spoon, or if not, you can use that same spatula?
Wooden spoon.
Perfect. Okay, so all at once, add the flour mixture. You want to stir rapidly, but gently at first. When the flour disappears, Nick, start stirring really aggressively. So go ahead and dump that into your bowl. We do clean as you go. Well, when I say clean, I just put everything in the sink and then I wash it later.
I had to do all my dishes last night. That was tight.
So now the pâte à choux is rested a little bit, so I'm not going to curdle the eggs. I'm going to start to add them one by one. We want to fully incorporate the egg, Nick, but it's going to look a little weird. Like all the pieces of the dough are going to kind of separate and get coated in the egg, and it's going to look like it doesn't want to recombine. But just keep stirring, and eventually it will. By the 5th egg or so, it will start to smooth out and get a little bit looser. So I think that this is actually done because one of the things I look for is the mixture will fall off of the spoon or the spatula and form a V shape, just like this. Nick, you see what that looks like, how it forms this kind of V shape off of the spoon?
Yeah, totally. Check this out.
Yours looks better than mine. It's a little loose maybe, but that's not necessarily bad. If it's too loose, it won't puff and form, you know, a hollow thing. But I don't think that it's too loose. It could just mean that you cooked yours slightly less, and so you started out with more moisture, but we're gonna go with it. The pâte à choux is done. I'm gonna fill the pastry bag. This is what we'll use to pipe the cream puffs. Nick, I'm going to spoon the mixture into the pastry bag, right? And leave those sides down and around so that they stay clean. If you can, Nick, try to avoid making like lots of air pockets. Take those sides of the bag, lift them up, and let the dough settle into the pastry bag. Go ahead and squeeze it and start to twist at the top of the bag. Okay, and then I like to put a little rubber band on the end to secure it so it doesn't come undone. And now here we have our piping bag of pâte à choux. I haven't cut an opening yet. We're just gonna leave this here because before we pipe everything, I'm gonna pivot back to the craquelin and we're gonna cut our circles and preheat our oven. Then we'll be ready to bake the cream puffs. Nick and I are grabbing our craquelin out of the fridge because that has had a time to chill. Ooh, mine are kind of stuck together. Are yours? Ooh!
Mine are stuck.
Try to peel it off. We want to separate the two pieces.
Yeah.
We're gonna punch out circles one at a time, and then the circles of craquelin are gonna go on top of the cream puffs as they bake. We wanna punch out around 70 rounds, and we should have more than enough craquelin to do that.
I already have 30.
I know that your kitchen's a little cooler, but mine is warm, so I'm gonna chill the craquelin because it's getting a little soft.
I put mine back in the fridge that I finished, and I had put this one back in the fridge between because it was getting soft.
That was very smart. So I'm gonna cover my plate of craquelin with another plate. Instead of using plastic, so I'm trying not to do that. Okay, so I'm sticking mine in the fridge. I have 2 baking sheets and 2 pieces of parchment paper. Then earlier, I took that same pastry tip that I used for punching out the craquelin, and I traced around it to make circles on the parchment paper. A permanent marker is kind of the only thing that will draw on parchment. A grid of 1-inch circles that is 7 by 5. So I have 35 rounds per sheet of parchment paper, so 70 total. And then what I do is I take the parchment paper and I turn it over so that the ink side is down, but I can still see the circles. I take a tiny bit of pâte à choux and I smear a little dab in each of the 4 corners, just the tiniest amount. Then again, ink side down on the parchment paper, place it over top, smooth it out a little, and now you have these sort of anchor points and it's not gonna go anywhere. I'm a little concerned about your pâte à choux, but we're gonna go with it. Does it seem like it's oozing out really easily?
Yeah, it's like I feel like I need to put it in the fridge for a couple minutes.
Uh-oh.
It is coming out quick.
Let me see.
I mean, it's not water, but like.
Pipe a little mound like onto your finger and let me see what it looks like. Oh, no, that's fine. You're fine. It's not like settling into a puddle. You're fine.
Plop this into one of the holes?
No. I'm going to position the pastry bag so the tip is hovering right above the surface of the parchment paper, and I'm at an angle sort of between the edge of the circle and the center of it, and I apply even pressure to the bag, and without moving the tip of the pastry bag, I allow the dough to fill the circle, and then once it's filled, I lift up at the bag with a bit of a flick, and I have now piped an even mound of dough. I'm going to keep going until I filled all the circles on both baking sheets. And you should use basically all of the pâte à choux that you have.
Oops, dang it.
If I were making normal cream puffs, I would do a little egg wash and bake them. But instead of egg wash, we are gonna bring in the craquelin and top each one. So I'll show you what that looks like. Take a circle and just gently place it on top of each puff. And it can sort of rest and hover above the pâte à choux. It's like putting a little hat on it.
My parchment stand? Wow.
Circles of craquelin look great. The puffs are they look a little loose. So Nick, you're gonna wanna bake yours for a long time because they have a lot of moisture in them. So my oven is preheated to 425. These go in the oven. I have a rack on the top third and bottom third. So as soon as I put them in the oven, I'm gonna drop the temp to 375, and then they're gonna go steady all the way through at that temp. But after 20 minutes, I'll rotate so that they get even browning. So top to bottom and then 180 degrees. And they'll go for 30 to 40 minutes.
Uh-oh. They're not very uniform. And I don't think they raised up as they're supposed to. But whatever.
Nick's and my cream puffs have baked. They've been resting in the oven to really dry out. And now we're gonna take them out, poke some holes, and then let them fully cool. You're gonna take a paring knife. I'm using this one because I don't feel like getting out a paring knife. Okay, taking the tip of the knife and boring out a little hole in the bottom. This will help any trapped steam to escape. It's also gonna create a little spot where I can insert the pastry tip to fill them.
They feel nice and light and puffy.
Yes, they should feel totally hollow. So pastry cream is milk that is thickened with eggs, sugar, cornstarch, and then butter is added to it. So it's this really rich, creamy, smooth consistency. This is a version that I melted some chocolate into. The chocolate also increases the firmness, the set of it. So in this recipe, I'm lightening it with a little bit of creme fraiche. Although I forgot to buy creme fraiche, so I sent Harris out and he bought me sour cream.
I got creme fraiche. Creme fraiche.
Let's look at your pastry cream. Wow, the consistency looks great.
Hi.
And you've never even made it before.
Correct. This is a first try. 2 cups of whole milk, pinch of kosher salt. Wait. Poop. This is the 2 or 3 minutes part. Ooh, that lot of that ribbon. And we're whisking and we're spilling. Oops. Alright. Guess a slightly bigger bowl. Could have been better. We need to mix in chocolate right away while it's still hot. Boom. And now we need some film. Instead of just covering the bowls, we're pushing it right on down to the surface because we're going to be using this stuff tomorrow. Success.
Wow, looks really good.
It's really tasty.
I know, isn't it delish? There's a lot of ways to flavor it. It's up to you. I mean, vanilla is super delicious, but I like the flavor addition of chocolate, and I like the way the chocolate pairs with the caramel on the croquembouche. Nick, just make sure it's well mixed.
Wow, this chocolate just got a lot lighter with this cream.
It's like the best chocolate pudding. That same setup that you had before with the piping bag inside that tall cup, you're gonna fill it the same way.
Wow, look at that. Look at that ripple.
Now, piping is really best done with 2 hands, but in this case, I need 1 hand to hold the cream puff. So what I want to make sure of is that the bag is really sort of tightly twisted so that I can use 1 hand holding the bag to squeeze as I use the other hand to position the puff and, you know, make sure I'm not overfilling it. I am taking 1 puff at a time, and where I poked that little hole, it just goes right over the pastry tip. Squeeze firmly but gently. You don't want to squeeze too fast because you don't want to overfill the puff.
It's like not much cream on the inside and it just ends up on the back of it.
That's okay. Just fill them as much as you can.
All right.
Go ahead and fill 1 at a time. If you're like, it could take a little bit more, you can put a little bit more in there. And then twist as you go. We have our filled baked cream puffs. We are moving into the final assembly stage, but I actually like to divide it up into 2 separate steps. First, we coat the puffs in caramel, then we start to stack them. So we are gonna cook a pretty dark caramel, and I like to transfer it from the pot to a heat-proof measuring cup so that it doesn't end up overcooking and burning because there's so much heat in the pot. Also, Nick, it's a good idea to wear a pair of gloves. Do you have like a pair of latex gloves or even like dishwashing gloves? We're gonna use 2 cups of sugar and a half cup of water. I have a large saucepan right here. So I'm gonna combine those in the saucepan. So we're cooking 2 batches of caramel. This is just the first one. And that's because the work time on the caramel isn't super long. So as the caramel cools, it starts to harden. I have my mixture of 2 cups sugar, half cup of water. Okay, so Nick, so you got that on like medium.
Medium.
Once you see bubbles all over, Nick, all across the surface, that's when you can use your pastry brush, and you're gonna like take the wet brush and brush it around the sides of the pot really close to like the level where you have the sugar solution. And you can see like little stuck on sugar crystals. That's what you want to dissolve with the wet pastry brush. Until you see it start to turn golden, keep it on medium. And then eventually we're gonna pull the whole thing off and pour the contents of the caramel into the measuring cup. Once it starts to take on color, I'm gonna keep a close eye on it, dial down the heat so that I really can accurately get to that dark amber color without overcooking it, and then I'll transfer it to our measuring cup. The only goal here is to get a nice, even, fully coated, domed surface dipped in the caramel. So I'm grasping each puff by the edges, like right below where that craquelin is covering the surface. And I just go into the caramel, let the excess drip off a bit, and then right onto this other baking sheet. The latex gloves, it's not like it's creating a huge barrier between your skin and the caramel, but at the very least, the caramel will harden on the gloves and not on your skin if you get a little bit. But you want to be really careful here. A sugar burn sucks. Basically, just that craquelin coated part of the puff is what you're dipping into the caramel. So I'm using a plate that I'm turning upside down. You could use a cake stand, you can use a cake round, you can use the base of a tart can that you've covered in like a little foil. With this many cream puffs, I'm starting with a base ring of about 11. In general, like we decrease the number of puffs in a ring by 1 as we build up. Depending on the size, sometimes you'll need 1 more or 1 less. So I'm just kind of setting these around the base to give myself an idea of what the diameter is going to be. The second I have that wet caramel attaches to the plate, it's going to stick there. And once I let it harden, it's not going anywhere. And then I'm using the second batch of caramel. I just need like a little more caramel to dip the sides of each one, and then I'm going to stick it on that way. How's it going?
I'm only fishing out my 3rd puff.
Are you regretting this whole project at this point or no?
Absolutely not.
Are you sick of it?
No. I feel like there's some fatigue.
Yeah, it's long, right?
It's also like a new level of respect, being like, okay, I get it. There's some things that can go wrong.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my dipped caramel puffs and I'm going to now dip the sides into the caramel and let it just hang out. I'm gonna hold it in place. And I have the puffs positioned caramel side out. So instead of up, I'm pointing them outwards. And I'm using kind of like the curve of the plate to guide me in how I position each one. We are building this hollow. There's no form inside. Often for like professional bakers, often you will see a form that they're using to create something really like perfectly even. Not my style.
Oh no.
What happened?
Going too fast. I need to set it longer because it's falling on itself. I got 2 or 3 that just broke off from the bottom.
Oh no, oh no. Can you stick them back on?
I'm working on it.
One thing I'm doing is ever so slightly angling each puff inward slightly to create that slope.
This is way more fun.
Right?
The caramel is slightly frustrating, but building it is pretty fun.
How many did you do around the first base? Was it 11?
I'm at 11 like the cookbook suggests.
So you can see that my caramel is starting to harden, and as it hardens, it forms these threads. So I'm using this little offset spatula and wrapping the threads around.
Now I'm realizing my walls are falling.
Uh-oh. Look, it takes a lot of practice.
Ah, shoot. Man, this is hard. Everything's leaning in on itself, collapsing.
It looks good from this angle. You might want to start thinking about doing one that's more of a dome or like just a smaller cone.
All right, which way's the good side? It's not quite the Croquembouche tower. It's like a croquin ball. That was that crunch.
Did you get chocolate or vanilla?
That one was vanilla. Let me see if I can find a chocolate one. Yeah. I think I like the chocolate one better.
Okay, I just have one question. Was it worth it to spend the last 7 hours doing this?
Was it worth it? I mean, trying new things and like having something to show for it, it's pretty cool.
What a great attitude. I love that attitude, and I couldn't agree more. Even though the puffs are a little squat, it looks like you filled them so well. The caramel coating is very even. They're very round. I'm deeply impressed, I have to say.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate that coming from you. I guess the question is to the people, the folks. What do you want me to see me try to make next?
Nick is better at YouTube than I am.
If I could do it again and make them bigger with more cream inside of them, that would obviously be improvement number 1. Number 2 would be more consistent puffs. 3 would be my architecture. Work on that a little better.
Flavor is number 1 important, and obviously you nailed that one. Look, I'm exhausted. This is a lot of work. I have sugar everywhere. I'm a professional. I've made this before. I can only imagine how many dishes Nick has to do at home, but it's a really fun project. I think it was a great way for both Nick and I to spend a rainy Sunday. Thank you for watching Dessert Person as always. We'll be back with more content, more videos. Let us know what you thought about this idea of me teaching someone, in this case remotely, but maybe even in person, a novice baker, how to make their favorite treat, because I love being able to teach people, and that's what Dessert Person is all about. So, as always, thanks for watching.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you.